Yeah, so we still phone banked, namely for John James and Peter Meyer, especially. Um, we did some door knocking as well. Door knocking is a little less popular, both on the end of those receiving the door knocking and of those doing the door knocking. At one point, it was even illegal to go in groups greater than two, so there was some difficulty with that. Phone banking became the main source of political action.
A lot of the organizations on campus, we sort of thought, and we also heard just in general from our membership that sort of they were either A, increasingly very polarizing, or B, they sort of required people to come in with a sense of like previous knowledge, or a sense of like okay, I'm coming here for these specific reasons because I believe in this policy exactly. These people who come into college and okay, like they think I'm may align with a few values of Democrats. We thought that this could be a very good space for that to happen.
There's a bit of a lull right at the moment, and so there is some sort of dissenting role we can play on campus and in general. Trump, for better or for worse, was a very polarizing figure, and I think that brought a lot of hate toward Republicans and our chapter in particular on campus. But it was often hard to even talk about, say, healthcare, which Republicans have been talking about for 2 decades or more. Just because everything was overshadowed by the presence of former President Trump.
We'll, attempt to bring in more people, different voices to the political process. And I guess as we get closer to election day, probably more on the former, having to do with campaign events, but still right now, as we're in a position where even the 2021 elections, let alone the 2022 elections, are still a little bit away. So more so focusing on discussion, being able to reach out, and then possibly things having to do with like voter registration and things like that.